In Module 1, you have an assignment where you're going to look through the Kansas Early Learning Standards and compare it to some of the ideas regarding the creative process as discussed in your textbook. And so what I have here is, if you come over to Blackboard, the assignment is the Creative Experiences in the Kansas Early Learning Standards assignment. And I've went ahead and downloaded and opened the attachment there that you are going to complete for the assignment. So I've also pulled up the Kansas Early Learning Standards. Some of you might have a hard copy of these standards and have that to be able to have in front of you, while others might need to pull it up on the website. That is not linked here, but let's look here in getting started. I don't link you there either, so I will include that link here in just a minute. I will end up adding that to Blackboard after we're done talking here. So here is the online version of the Kansas Early Learning Standards. Kansas Early Learning Standards is not a curriculum. It's not the Common Core, but it's a tool that all people working with young children should use to help guide them and help them to understand next steps in the learning process, and to really help them focus on educating the whole child, not just focusing in on certain tasks or skills, but really looking at overall development. The Kansas Early Learning Standards are closely connected to developmental tools such as the ASQ3 and the ASQSE. If you look at milestones with the CDC, you will notice that a lot of those milestones are linked to the early learning standards. If you look at curriculum programs, the Kansas Early Learning Standards will be tied to those. And so like programs used by Head Start, Montessori, Reggio Emilio, different philosophies, all these things are tied together, and that helps create a checks and balances, if you will, for education. It's no different than the Common Core. It's important to understand standards are not our enemies. Standards are not bad. Standards help us focus on particular areas, as well as make sure that we're addressing the diverse needs of children in childcare and preschool classrooms, as well as in the primary classrooms. So the Kansas Early Learning Standards, it's important to understand how they're divided up. If we scroll here to page 7, it discusses here the different domains. They call them domains or developmental content areas. Approaches to learning, physical development, social and emotional development, communication and literacy, math, science, social studies, and the creative arts. For this assignment, you will notice we list all of them, and so you're going to refer to all of them except not the creative arts. You will not refer to the creative arts for this assignment. So that's the developmental domains areas. Within them, they're developed, so the strand is the domain. So approaches to learning, physical development, social, those are strands. But then you have the ages, they're broken down by ages. The boxed subheadings, which is a subset of the strand, so subsets. And then you have an actual standard. So what does this look like? Let's go to approaches to learning. Here's the approaches to learning page, first page. So the developmental content area, or the strand, is approaches to learning. You then have ages. You have young infant, mobile infant, toddler, preschool 3, preschool 4, and kindergarten. And then you have the subset. So this is what you're going to write out, the subsets. Engagement and attention, persistence, curiosity and initiative, sense of competence, problem solving, creativity and flexibility, and that's it. That's all there is. Now you'll notice here there are more specific identification items. Those were formerly called indicators, and now they call them, I don't want to call this the wrong thing. They call them standards. So those are the actual standards or indicators. Okay, so I'll repeat it. This is the strand. Approaches to learning is the strand or the developmental domain or the developmental content area. You have your age levels. That's pretty self-explanatory. You have subsets, which are these bulleted items in the same color as the strand. And then you have the standard or the indicator, which is the specific skill or behavior. So we're not worried about that for this assignment. For this assignment, we're focusing on the subsets. So I'm going to come here to the chart. And what we're doing here is we're looking at the creative process, at different behaviors that Chapter 1 introduces us to. And so the creative process is on page 26 to 27. And one of the first pieces they talk about is originality. Now, I also used the term innovative ideas, which comes from page 11. But on page 26, originality this is what they say. Originality is creating an idea, procedure, or product that is unique for a particular child or in relation to other children at a similar stage of development. When asked to name some things that are red, a 4-year-old might say an apple, a cardinal in the yard, and his older sister's poison ivy rash. So, originality, creating an idea, procedure, or product that is unique for a particular child or in relation to other children at a similar stage of development. So, what subsets address originality for approaches to learning? If I read these standards here under engagement and attention, do these things stress and relate to supporting a child's originality or the creation of innovative ideas? And I'm going to say not really. Yes, it's important to be able to sustain attention, but that subset is probably going to fill in better somewhere down here, but not for originality. I don't want you to get too broad and too generic. I want you to really look and see what is happening here. So if you look at engagement and attention, it talks about playing beside other children and being engrossed in their work. That's probably going to be more about fluency, and probably here if we read on page 11 about problem solving. So we'll come back to this one. I'm going to work through each concept on its own. So, no. Persistence, practices an activity many times until successful, stays with a task for at least 5 minutes, engages in self-initiated activities. Again, persistence is not being really emphasized here. So I'm not going to, with innovative ideas, originality. Curiosity and initiative, explores materials, initiates play, invites others, chooses activities, seeks new and varied experiences, makes and follows plans for games. Not exactly, so we're going to keep going. Sense of competence, recognizes own abilities and expresses satisfaction, begins to be able to release or redirect emotional tensions, shows pride in family composition, recognizes and respects similarities and differences between self and other. No, not really, but boy, isn't that going to be about making connections and considering different viewpoints? Is that sense of competence? So we're going to come back to problem solving. Alternate method, identify problem, yes. Delayed gratification, real and make-believe, yes. So I'm definitely going to say here, ATL, creativity and flexibility. Oh no, well, I didn't mean that. I meant problem solving. But I'm going to actually say it's both. I'll end up leaving both here. Okay, and then I'm going to put ATL before each one. Okay, so then I can go to physical and health development. And again, I'm talking about innovative ideas. Coordination, locomotion, coordination, using household tools. And I'm going to, for this one, I'm going to say yes. This has to do with originality there. When we get kids to work physically using things around them without being told how to think or how to do it, but you know, figuring out scissors. Scissors is a really great example. You can model for a kid how to use scissors, but is it okay for the kid just to play with the scissors and look at the mechanics of the scissors and figure it out? Is there value in that? And with the creative process, they would say yes. Because if a kid can just figure it out and look, and that doesn't mean that they don't look at you as the adult, but you don't have to do hand over hand for the kid to get the motion. Just giving the opportunity to explore and play with a tool is just as important as showing them exactly how to do it. Sometimes there's value in a kid figuring it out on their own. Goes on through physical fitness, not really, nutrition and health. No. So I keep going. Social and emotional development. What we're talking about, innovative and original ideas. Oh, definitely. Responding to criticism. So, again, I'm going to come here and do SED. Foundations of character development. Now you will notice over here, I'm going to take that here. You will notice over here there's this character development here piece, and that comes here with the CD. You don't need to write that part out. I did for physical development because they didn't have the subsets. But in most of the other content areas, you're going to find that they have a subset listed here. So foundations of character development. And I can even go here and say develop, implement, promote, and model core ethical and performance principles. I should probably actually do that. So develop, implement, promote, and model core ethical and performance principles. You'll notice I'm not actually putting entering in to a different line each one. Part of that's just so the document's not going to be too huge. It's going to be pretty big, and that's okay. Create a caring by considering hyper attachments. So where would attachments come in to be important? Possibly flexibility, possibly different viewpoints and perspectives again. The mutual respect and using strategies to build a safe environment and productive culture. Definitely for considering different viewpoints. So you could jump around when doing this assignment. You could work through each one. You're going to have to go through each of the developmental domains. It will probably take a good 30 to 45 minutes to complete this assignment. But by completing this assignment, you're also going to become very aware of the Kansas Early Learning Standards and how they connect to creative experiences and the creative process. So again, keeping in mind, you're going to use each of the content areas, developmental content areas, except for the creative arts. You're not going to use that one. And instead, you're going to then list the abbreviation for the developmental content area and then the related subsets. So these bulleted phrases. And if there's not a bulleted phrase, you can use the phrase on the side as you find in physical development. I've used page numbers for the textbook to help reference you. I would encourage you to read those as you go so that you make sure you're tightly connecting the subset to how observing is discussed in the textbook. We're focusing on the child's behavior and how that experience impacts, or those types of experiences and that process impacts that particular area of development as according to the Kansas Early Learning Standards. You won't necessarily list every subset. I would not expect that. You know, I doubt there's anywhere over here where you're going to list nutrition. But you're looking for a tight connection of when flexibility and thinking is addressed in probably a lot in social and emotional development and social studies and approaches to learning. That's just an example. So there's obviously going to be some areas that are more heavily addressed than others. Do not forget to answer the last question. Don't forget that part. If you have questions, do not hesitate to ask me. I'm here to help. I'm always available by texting and email. If I can't pick up the phone, I won't, but I will return the call as soon as I can. So if you have questions, don't hesitate, and make sure that you find your copy of the Kansas Early Learning Standards or pull them up online to complete the assignment.